Welcome back to Mountain Gem Card Collectibles. I took a break for a little bit. I'm doing projects around my home. Anyway, I've had a few fingers pointed at me for apparently not being the most positive voice for sports cards when it comes to my show. And I like to do reviews, previews, whatever. We're in summertime right now, so there isn't a lot of releases going on. But, I was talking to this person the other day, and they were basically saying that, the sports card people that he knows, all they want to hear is just people blowing smoke up their you-know-what. Because when it comes to sports cards, everyone's right about, what they do in regards to the hobby. And I would have to agree with that sentiment to a degree, I'm not exactly rolling out making friends every day, you know, with sports card collectors. Why is that? Well, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, sports card collectors want to wake up in the morning and, be told that what they're doing is 100% correct for the most part. The Caleb Williams rookie card's the best card on the market. Okay. And, a lot of sports card collectors, investors will not, deal with my channel because I'm not the most positive voice, If you want positivity, hobby positivity, I would say stick with Sports Card Dad, stick with Neo, stick with the other channels. They're going to sit and pat your back and, for the most part, say, hey, good job. That's not me. That never has been me. And that's just because, I live in a different world. And, if you're someone that likes that smoke getting blown up, you know what? Well, you know where to go. That's not here. And so I don't blame people, for always wondering why I'm not the most positive voice when it comes to my channel or sports cards. So, we can look at PSA, these most recent grades, numbers from PSA and the other grading companies, that was just released from GemRate. But, to stay positive, for the big National Sports Collectors Convention crew, I watched a lot of, big shots the last few days, sharing how much they spent at the National, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, maybe not all of them, but a lot of money. And apparently the dealers have picked Detroit as the host of the 2028 National Sports Collectors Convention because, it's all about the dealer's choice. It's not about, the collectors. It's all about the dealers. All right. Got to stay positive, 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 positive. If you really like hobby positivity, I'd just like to remind you, you can always plug yourself in, wake yourself up on Instagram with good old Fanatics Live, gaslighting you every day. But hey, if it's about, the smoke being blown up your you-know-what, I'm sure you're already here every day. And, to go along with hobby positivity, since you're on Instagram, we really have to stop by, the Topps website, Michael Rubin as well, got to kiss the ring, bend the knee. If you like hobby positivity, Fanatics Live, it's the place to go. The Topps website on Instagram is the place to go. They will do a great job of blowing smoke up your you-know-what every day. So you can smile. Because remember, it's all about hobby positivity. But strangely enough, I'm not finding a lot of hobby positivity on the latest, GemRate grades for the month of July. Why is that? I figured people would be rushing to get, their latest 2025 Topps Chrome baseball sets graded. Got to grade the big rookies. Or maybe the price scared you a little bit. Maybe the hobby positivity isn't as positive as you'd like. So let's go over some of these numbers. When I look at these numbers, hey, 1.67 million graded, up 17% month over month, up 31% year over year. CGC, they're not doing near as much. They're doing 399,000 total, down 7% month over month. But hey, they're up 100%, up 110% year over year. It's good news. And I know Dan the Card Man just recently went over these numbers. But let's face it, for the positive yin of, Neo, Sports Card Dad, and other shows, unfortunately, I'm more the yang. I'm more on the negative side. Why is that? Well, I've always kind of protected myself by being a skeptic, So, this number here, let's be positive. Hobby positivity. It's all about the breakers. It's all about the billionaires. It's all about the big rich people. Well, what's going on here? For sports, they only graded 665,000 at PSA, up 27% month over month, down 18% year over year. That's almost, 20%. 20% is a big number. Why is that? Because it's 1/5 of the total. Ouch. SGC, 143,000 total, down 4%, down 22%. I just call them PSA. PSA/SGC. CGC down 3% month over month, up 73% year over year. So they're getting a little bit of love, but not much. And then Beckett, 20,000 total graded for sports, down 1% month over month, but hey, up 10% year over year. So what's going on here? Where's the hobby positivity? Or has, this way of, waking up in the morning and spending all your money gambling at the PSA casino, is it wearing off? Are people deciding that, the market's so saturated with slabs anyway that, they should just go and purchase the high graded slabs anyway? Maybe they're picking up on that, or maybe the hobby positivity is slipping away. And why would it be slipping away? Well, let's face it. Sports cards are no longer meant for just average people. They're just not. You have to be, linked to a breaking company. You have to have deep pockets. You have to have a lot of things going for you, And the big boom from the pandemic apparently is waning. And why is it waning? Are people not loving sports as much? Are they not loving us grading as much? Well, we can't say they're not loving grading as much, because then you look at the TCG. 1.01 million TCG grade by PSA, up 11% month over month, up 116% year over year. Yeah, I guess everyone caught on to the fact that, grading sports cards, the sports card realm, the realm of Fanatics, Live, Panini, the big monopoly, well, they're just not getting, what I guess they thought they'd get. So let's all switch over to, I'm guessing for the most part, if we dug into these numbers, it would be Pokemon, of course, Pikachu, Charizard, whatever, all your big name guys, I always like to call them the Dirty Dozen, because there's always about, a dozen constant names that I usually see in the Pokemon realm, I won't get into those. But is Pokemon a more welcoming environment for grading? Or, are these card breakers sending all of this stuff in? Well, I tend to believe that what you're seeing is, when you look at just average people, being me, I'm no one special. I'm not a monetized channel on YouTube. I don't get a lot of love, obviously, because I don't have a lot of hobby positivity, which is what a lot of these guys like. But let's face it, a lot of those average people, that can afford to get into sports cards, because sports cards are just so expensive. You can't say they're not, whether you just want to open up a box or whatever. Well, I tend to believe that you're just seeing a lot of average people grading TCG over sports cards. It's a lot more affordable to break. It's a lot more affordable overall. And if you get that, PSA 10, maybe it won't be as valued as, some rare rookie auto, patch that came out, But nonetheless, this is a playing field that has been set up more for average people. Now, to me, it should be sports cards, should be that playing field. But this is what happens when you allow the bad actors to roll in, fanatics, tops. Well, they're just catering to a very specific market, breakers, If you're not a breaker, you don't have those deep pockets, well, you know what, buddy? You just may as well roll on down the road. And I know the sports card people don't want you to think that or believe that. But in reality, that's the message is, hey, if you don't have the wealth, get out of here. And a lot of those people have gotten out of there. And they've switched over to Pokemon. And they're happy. There are some awesome Pokemon cards out there. Can't say there isn't. They keep releasing more and more. Gold Pokemon cards, whatever. And you can actually chase those down and, get them at a fairly affordable price, unless you really start digging into the Japanese cards. Some of them are really expensive. But hey, you don't have to be tied to a breaking company. And so you can look at these numbers yourself. I recommend, going to X and checking out, the GemRate data rates, But it is what it is. Now, are these gurus on YouTube? I know that they like to talk about it, but for the most part, what I've noticed is when it comes to sports cards is the gurus that do the best are really the ones that really like to blow smoke up the you-know-what. And I've tried watching those guys for many years, and eventually it wears off. And why does it wear off? Well, when someone's always giving you a pat on the back, saying, hey, things are great, hey, things are awesome, well, and things really aren't going very awesome, and the numbers aren't living up to it, I just feel like it becomes disingenuous, And if you want to live in that realm of, hey, sports cards are the best thing, since ice cream, hey, that's not going to change. I mean, I like sports cards, I sell them. I'm still doing them. I'm still involved, and I will be, for many years. It's just when you dig into a lot of these numbers, I'm not seeing the hobby positivity that comes out of a lot of YouTube gurus' mouths. I mean, they like to, go around. Let's talk about repacking. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. What's hurting the market. But overall, every day it's a beautiful sunny day in the world of sports cards. But what I'm saying is I think living the dream can only go so far. Before that dream, you're going to hit a brick wall, and it's going to become a nightmare. Why are some people turning away, or why are a lot of people turning away from grading sports cards? Well, it's a very challenging thing to do, grading sports cards. They're tough to get into. They're tough to find. So I don't know. With what I saw is I guess, when I was sitting in the pandemic, I expected that the sports card boom would really take over TCG. Because we have all these sports leagues and all this and all that. We have the Caitlin Clark effect. the Paul Skeens. But overall, I feel like people I've met, they just act like it's kind of a country club. You can tell yourself that, hey, you have a chance at getting these good cards, but in reality, with the prices on boxes, you don't. And I think people caught on to that fact, and maybe they were involved in the 90s, 80s, early 2000s when sports cards were more affordable. But even the last release of Topps Chrome baseball, I mean, it was just so expensive. It was just ridiculous. It's like, who's this made for? Well, it's made for the breakers. That's what Michael Rubin wants. And what Michael Rubin wants, Michael Rubin gets. I mean, you have to think he's got control of Topps. But let's face it, he's not exactly bringing people into the market. He isn't. He's pushing people out of the market. And so I'm just letting you know, hey, you can keep watching hobby positivity channels. They will blow smoke up your you-know-what all day to make you feel good, make your life feel good. As long as they get paid, at the end of the week or month or whatever, because their channel is monetized and they came in at a good time. Maybe they came in at 2020 when there wasn't a lot of content out there. You can keep going down that road. But if you stick with my channel, if you've looked at a lot of these numbers, they don't add up, What adds up is hobby positivity is good for monetized YouTube channels, so they stay monetized and keep making that cash. Anyway, hope you enjoy this episode. I'd like to thank my subscribers and all my viewers. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Anyway, hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.